Good evening. Welcome to Invest. Where's William? I know. There we go. All right, folks. Monday. I had some medical issues, folks, and come to find out, my MRI wasn't good, and it's probably the cause of it. That's pretty much all I'm going to say, and I'm sorry. And I did faint or pass out or seizure. So they're not sure, but my MRI isn't good. All right. So we have got a special report that there are ground troops in Gaza. They have moved in. They finally going in with the heavy hitters. Um, William, did you have anything to say on the Gaza?
Yeah, they're going in with their heavy armor and troops.
Okay.
So it's AP. So they're going in with APCs, Merkava tanks, and yeah, it's a full meal deal.
Yeah, and now the other new thing is we got the Speaker of the House. Is the drama over? I sure hope so because it seemed like he got a lot of votes, bingo, right off. Now, what I hear, he is a very strong conservative. That's me right there. Um, he's very into religion and God. He wants the border wall, wants to close the borders. He wants to start putting in bills that will help America and to get the prices down. This sounds like they say an evangelical Christian, Mr. Johnson. Um, so he looks like he is going to. Be maybe something that we can deal with. We'll have to wait and see. We all thought McCarthy was going to be good. We thought Jordan was going to be the one. I wanted Scalise, and they didn't want neither of them, and they chose somebody that we really haven't heard about. So, yeah, thank you, Susan. I appreciate that because it didn't look really good. For those that don't know, I got multiple sclerosis, so we'll just stick it at that. Go check out MS, the National MS Society, and you'll see some of the issues I have. Poor William's got to put up with me. He's got to poke me every so often. So anyway, so we do have a new speaker. And the other thing is um, Jinping. Um, William told me right before we got going that he kind of ordered Newsom to speak with him. Now, we're all.
So that's my theory, is that he didn't decide to make a trip to China. He was ordered back to China.
And let's see, the other one was.
It wouldn't look good. It doesn't look good to go right now. And for him to go when it wouldn't look good, why would he go?
Now, just this week, William, this kind of concerns me too. Um, um, Islamabad, Visit China Belt and Road Forum by Pakistan. Um, Anwar Kakar, he's made the agreement that the meeting with Jinping, there's a good partnership. And they said it's a partnership made in heaven. I don't know about that. We will always stand with China and trust you blindly, says Kakar. The latest move is a railway project, a plan to upgrade over uh, about 1,500 miles of track. Oh, I'm going to cough. So, otherwise, this is going to include a $1.5 billion investment by the Energy Group of China. So there we go. We were just talking about that. Um, I believe Monday or last week, William, about the
Yes.
Belt and Road.
So the United States pulled out, and Pakistan, its economy basically collapsed.
Yeah.
We've done that twice to them. Now, in their northeast is Chinese territory, and they want Belt Road to come down out of the northeast and to a port in Pakistan, and then the Belt Road will go up and over the Khyber Pass into Afghanistan.
Yeah. So, so Pakistan, and boy, William, I have to talk to you about a gentleman in Pakistan that got a hold of me. I'll have to send you the. I don't know. We'll talk about it later. But now, boy, Biden's going to be upset, William. You wouldn't believe. No, he's not going to be impeached. But guess what? There's a Democrat, Dean Phillips of Minnesota. He's going to enter the 2024 presidential race against Joe Biden. And he's got his fists up and he's ready to punch. Um, Joe Biden's going to make him go out and do some push ups. That's what's going to happen. But yeah, so we got a new one on the ticket. Dean Phillips of Minnesota. Yeah. They've seen the big.
Sure.
Huh?
He'll win for sure.
Oh. Well, we don't want Camilla. And Joe Biden, I mean, when I seen Jill run up and rescue him on that one clip, I was like, oh, good grief, we're in trouble. We're in big trouble. He's lost. And he bungled a speech. There was like a 9-minute speech he did. And I mean, the poor guy at the microphone was like just about whispering to him, come on, this way, this way. Uh, it's not pretty. It's not good. So, Newsom met with Jinping. I wonder what Gavin is up to. I think Jinping is making demands, Susan. Susan, that's a really good statement. I'm gonna throw that up there for you. Um, at first I thought, what Nancy do? They got a building named after Nancy William. They're going to take it down. They're going to change the name or take it down. I guess they're mad at her. So,
Okay.
Yeah.
Whichever.
I think
Well,
it's the
she did find
GOP.
out.
It's probably for taking down Christopher Columbus. I don't know. They even want to take
She
down
flew to Taiwan. She flew to Taiwan.
That's what it was. Uh, but they don't want it. They don't want the name and they don't want the building. But now, before I get any further, you mentioned about ammunition being held for those gun owners that watch our show.
So we're getting indications out that a major civilian ammunition manufacturer, okay, with manufacturing plants in a number of locations with like 3 household names you would know in manufacturing, that they have been withholding their ammunition to the market to drive the prices up. And it may have been because they have sold all the manufacturing to, guess who? China. So that's
Yeah, and her finishing off with Newsom. So much is going on in California, Susan, that um, they have shut down a lot of even the China factories out there. And I believe that's what's going on. But the big business, small business, little tiny businesses, everything's closing. And I'm thinking that's what it is. It's a business thing. And or either that or he's got some really good blackmail material on him. Uh, Now the other thing everybody's been talking about all day today, and I couldn't get past any channel without them talking about that shooter last night up in Maine. Um, Now William found out a little bit on him, and the only thing I found out, he hit a bowling alley, a bar. He hit 18 to 22 people, and I believe there is a manhunt on for him. Now William knows more details about him. Uh, so William.
so. We believe that he worked at a closed military, part of a closed military base, um, a reserve training base, and it was between those two businesses. It was equal distance to those two businesses. The second business, the bar, was next door to a Walmart distribution hub. So he may have been working there. We're not sure, but that's what it's looking more and more like. That's the biggest employer in town.
Now they said his car, William, was right next to a boat dock, I believe. And they weren't sure if he fled by boat or if he just got in another car and left, or left on foot. But his little white car was there.
Let me finish.
Okay.
So let me finish. Last summer, he's a reservist. Okay, he's a weapons instructor, but he's also an Army reservist. He was in a mental ward for 12 days for hearing audible words. So he's schizophrenic.
Well, William, they said he was hearing voices when he got put in.
Well, that's it, yeah. And so, and the military doesn't kick people out that check themselves into mental wards immediately. They wait a period of time because they're already under duress before they section them out of the military, right?
Mm-hmm.
So he may have just got sectioned out of the military. So I don't know if you guys know this or not, but military bases, bowling alleys are big, okay? Bowling teams are big. It's what people do on their off hours. So he was likely looking for, the bar was closer to the still portion of the military base that was still open and functioning. And they have a National Guard unit there as well. So those are what's going on. Now they're wondering whether two things could have happened. He realized what he had done, right? Remember, he's schizophrenic, and he threw himself in the drink, or he had a boat.
Yeah. The pictures I've seen, it's kind of like a lake where he left the car next to. It looks more like a lake, but I haven't blown it all up to take a look at it yet. Until
that area is known as the Finger Lakes. You can travel all over the west side of the state by canoe. I used to go there, and it's just a fabulous recreation area because the river can take you from lake to lake to lake, and so yeah, he can disappear pretty quick in there.
Oh yeah, easily. And they said not only that, but there's swamplands and there's thick brush and there's a little bit of everything. Waterway to get out. He could have gotten a car. They were stopping. Every car that was on most of the major thoroughfares going in and out of the city. So, um, and the suspects, Susan said the news says suspects' family working with law enforcement, which that's a plus because a lot of times families, and I found out with courts, they'll say I don't know. Sometimes they hide them, sometimes they send them away. So if they're working with to find him, he must be pretty sick mentally. Uh,
So he comes from an origin of people that believe in the country, right,
mhm.
and believe in their communities. That's how he was raised. That's why he ended up in the military in the first place, I'm sure. So he's schizophrenic doesn't mean the family is. They're still the way they've always been.
Yeah. So it's best for the family really to work with them. They find them quicker. They can tell them, if there's a cabin in the woods, a vacation home, or a favorite place for them to go hunting, or somewhere where they go just to think. Families are one of the biggest keys to helping law enforcement find these type of shooters or even serial killers. So.
Unfortunately, he's close to Quebec. He's close to the St. Lawrence Seaway, and so yeah, he can vanish.
And the other one with a lot of that I've noticed watching court TV, when they're mental like that, eventually they try to do suicide by cop. They'll take a pot shot at the cops, barely missing them, and the cops will shoot back. And that it was one of the biggest issues that was brought up, I think, by the family today. Um, Susan kind of sparked the memory of what I was watching this morning. So the family is going to be the best bet to help because they can also work with law enforcement if he calls home or calls a family member and work with them to talk him to come in and give himself up if he hasn't committed suicide by now. That's the other possibility. So many possibilities.
Well, he's militarily trained. He's been in the service for quite some time. If he wants to vanish, you're not going to find him. If you're stepping on him, you won't find him. I mean, he trained snipers, right? That's what he does. Well, if you can train him, you can be one, right?
Yeah.
Or the thing about being a sniper is you can camouflage yourself anywhere. I mean, on a cut grass lawn, you wouldn't know he was there.
Yeah.
So it's going to be really difficult to find him, and then yeah, it's just going to be a pain.
Yeah. Well, we'll see how it runs. Now, new footage of Bowman was brought up in court. Bowman is the fire alarm puller, and yeah, I do know people that work in the Capitol, and then they've got their friends and other people that work. But one of my ladies told me that uh, they were by an elevator, and he was standing there, and he went to go to push the button for the elevator, and they're like, "Oh, watch out! We don't want. Watch out what you're pushing and pulling." Teasing them. They're teasing them
Well,
now. But he pled.
I went to the grocery store today, and the door didn't want to open, so I went to pull the door opener switch just like that guy did, but Mickey stopped me. Then they opened by themselves.
Yeah. Well,
Just joking.
to he pled guilty that he did it. Yeah. Of course he did it. He's on film. And I still I see these no matter where I go, I look at these little fire alarm things and I'm like, he knew. That he knew. But he
Oh
pled
yeah.
guilty and for misdemeanors and charges and it's all closed. We'll probably get uh, film later at a later date, probably after he gets out of office or he's outvoted. So, and then the squad, did you hear about that? They had a big vote on let's not be mean to Hamas vote. And it was what, 410 to 10, and then 15 didn't vote. And the 10 were mostly the squad and their little buddies. Did you hear about that? It was like a big vote they had this week. I was laughing.
Yeah. Well, the United Nations came. I mean, they have some premise there because the United Nations came out and said, well, the Palestinians attacked Israel because of their oppression over time, and this was just a likely
Let
outcome.
me see
And
here.
so, of course, they're going to pipe up and have their own vote at about the same time. And of course, there's going to be a certain point that they're going to side with Hamas because in their minds, Hamas never did anything wrong, even though they went from their border into Israel. They, did what they did, but
Israel's
Hamas was
calling
not.
for the UN chief's resignation at this point now.
Well, so here's the deal: if you see atrocities, and you know who did the atrocities first, and you're not willing to call out the atrocities, then you're just like the people that made the assault.
Not once have I heard the Geneva Convention. I mean, any other country, it's like they throw that out like running water. But it's mum's word on this right now. I've been waiting to hear it, but no one's saying it. Nobody's saying it. But yeah,
So
the
I
Israel
heard
did
this
call.
argument that if you're progressive in the morning, that attack happened, and you're Jewish, that attack happened, during the day. By that night, you're conservative, right? So you go from a progressive to a conservative overnight. And if you don't call out the problems, then, well, you're just anti-Israel.
Yeah. And then, oh boy, let me get this one here. Iran continues to use its proxies to attack Americans. This is happening in Syria and Iraq. And I talked a little bit with William because it was like a two-part little thing, or two different articles. One was on war footing. And I said, William, do you know what war footing is? Because it never mentioned it in the article. And to me, that was clickbait. But then I started reading it, and it was very interesting on what all they were saying. It was them using proxy militias to attack American bases in the Middle East at least 10 times with drones, rockets, and causing at least 2 dozen American casualties. And this isn't really even being brought up. But William, what's war footing? And I'm going to leave it at
So
that.
I think what they're talking about is what threat level were they at? Okay, so there's green, which is the lowest. Then there's yellow. Then there's red. And then there's like raid and black flag, the pesticide. Red is imminent, and black is incoming.
Yeah. And then
So
go ahead.
it's kind of goes along the same lines as DEFCON, right?
Hmm.
But but alert is just has to do with a local area. Now, war footing, that's something very different. in that it requires both a military preparation, a monetary preparation, a manufacturing preparation, and an energy preparation. When all four of those are acting in unison, and the types of requirements on the manufacturing of weapons drop, so that you can get more quantity out, and they'll just test it in the field because they need them so bad, right? That's a war footing. But none of those things have happened. We have had a drawdown. We haven't gone to an economic war footing. We haven't gone to an economic manufacturing, military. We are in the region that there's a problem right now. But yeah, it's what we're just doing right now is drawing down our stockpiles and replacing them with new weapon systems.
And what they were saying was the longer the Israel-Hamas war goes on, the greater the chance that the violence will escalate and spread. And the U.S. intelligence is that Iranian-backed militia groups are planning to ramp up attacks against U.S. forces in the Middle East as Iran seeks to capitalize on this backlash in the region to U.S. support for Israel. And this is according to U.S. officials. The militia groups have already launched multiple drone attacks on U.S. forces in Iraq and Syria. But the U.S. now has specific intelligence that those same groups could escalate even further as the war of Israel and Hamas continues, even adding the fact that they are now looking to get intelligence about Hezbollah. So
we've got 6 Chinese ships coming into the Eastern Mediterranean, right? To put eyeballs on the Americans, basically. And you have to keep in mind that the Hamas leader's wife speaks routinely to Jinping. This guy was given a wife when he was going to school in China back in the 90s. All right, now he's the leader of Hamas. And in 2006, his wife decided to reach back out to China, and she's been basically in communications with Jinping for the last weekly, right? And we also, Putin, the Russians have announced that there's going to be a conference between leaders of Hamas, Hezbollah, and Iran in Moscow as well. So if we had to protect our troops and China saw that as an escalation and then fired on our boats, that would be World War III.
Yeah, and then we got even what Oman had those ships.
So,
you know, William, I found out there was a Chinese exercise going on there, and they were just getting a little close. But after the drills were over and the exercises were over, they left. But we're finding is it the Straits of Hormuz? Is that what's down there? I'm trying to go on memory.
They went out of Oman through the Straits of Hormuz. Then they went through the trying to think the name of the sea. Anyway, they're going up through the Suez Canal right now. The 2 ships that were in Oman, and now 4 other ships, support ships, are on their way to the Suez Canals as well. So there will be 2 Chinese destroyers will be in the Eastern Mediterranean first, and then the other four will catch up as quickly as they can. And, not all ships are the same, can run at the same speed. So if they're support ships, they're likely, going to be making the route at 25 knots, where, destroyer maybe could do 33, 35 knots. And so even if the support ships had been with the two destroyers, the destroyers would just run away from them anyway. They would just cause a time imbalance. So, yeah, that is what it is.
And Japan has basically come out and said that they have are discovering with their own intelligence that munitions and military equipment are getting to Russia from North Korea. And the weapons shipments sharply are increasing. And the shipments, not only the shipments, but human toil of Russian war in Ukraine. And questioned the United States, is this why you're increasing aid to Ukraine? And the joint statement by top diplomats of South Korea, the US, and Japan came days after Russia's foreign minister scoffed at recent U.S. claim that his country received munitions from North Korea, saying that Washington has failed to prove any allegations. So we're going to, they said they'll work together with the international community to expose Russia's attempts to acquire military equipment from North Korea. Now, William, my whole thing is this is war. They're gonna get, and they're gonna help one another out, just like our allies help us out. And it reminds me of Hamas is trying to, and people, war is bloody, and there are people caught in the crossfire, and they're trying to blame. There's a few coming out saying that they were struck by Israeli fire. But if you're in the crossfire, you're going to be hit. If you're in the middle of it and they're shooting, you duck for cover, you run, and sometimes people do get hit. And it doesn't mean that it was purposely done. See, that's where you can't point fingers. Go ahead.
If you're given an ultimatum to move out of an area for safety, if you're civilians, and you refuse to leave, you're enemy.
Pretty much, yeah. But you know what I'm saying, though, or there's going to be civilians hurt, no matter how hard military, no matter what country, no matter how hard you try, you're still going to have a certain amount of civilians that's unfortunately going to get in the way. And I used to get mad over this. Why didn't they evacuate them? Why, I was the same way. I was getting angry. And then when I started realizing, wait, they do evacuate. And I found this is back during the Iraq War. And I was like, why are they still hitting civilians? And the same way with what we got with Palestinians. There are decent Palestinians, but what you have to realize is Hamas, Hezbollah, and those terrorist groups will use their own people as human shields. And that's another thing that ISIS does that too. So we have to look at are they being used as a human shield? Were they just caught in the crossfire? But does the military really have the time to investigate that? Sometimes not. You just got to realize with every war, there's going to be civilian casualties that's just not going to be able to be helped.
So if you do a bombing campaign, nobody can guarantee your safety, right? If you're in the zone of a bombing campaign. Now, on the other hand, if they go in by land, heavy armor and troops, if you come out and you don't have a weapon, right? Then you're a prisoner of war automatically if your own side doesn't shoot you in the back, and you can survive that way. But they have no way of offering themselves up to the Israelis until just now. And the other part is they should have already been in southern Gaza. So
and now
they were given an opportunity.
Go ahead.
So they were given the opportunity to stay out of the line of our bombers, and they just chose not to. So it is what it is. We're sorry that you made that choice, but you decided to be a combatant.
And William, as China is moving, I think they moved quite a few ships into Taiwan Straits, and I seen the blockage. They let them through, but they block it to start, almost like it's a toll booth. It's a toll, but they're not paying no toll. They're going up to them, and they're okay. We'll move. There you go. Now you can go through. But they're blocking it with so many ships trying to surround Taiwan at this point. And not only that, but
they're also doing that to the Philippines as well.
Yeah, they're doing that too. It goes straight down.
Over the Spratly Islands, over the Spratly Islands.
So now China said the U.S. is a disruptor of peace in response to the Pentagon report of China's military buildup. China said that the United States is getting in the middle of peace and stability in the world in scathing response.
So remember, a communist, peace is not the same definition for Americans as it is for CCP.
Yeah.
For Americans, peace means tranquility so I can go about my business as I choose, right? But in the CCP, it means we have total control of the situation. So you're not going to step out of line, and there's not going to be any conflicts, because if you try to get into a conflict, we're going to send you to the gulag.
And a lot of people don't realize that. When he means peace and stability, he means Taiwan, let us come in and we're going to control Taiwan and just submit. Don't fight. That is peace and stability, and by the CCP. And so the annual report that is required by Congress is one of the way the Pentagon measures the military capabilities of China, in which the government sees there is a key huge growth in Asia Pacific region, as they have done this annual report. And China's Ministry of Defense issued a response and called basically the findings wrong, that they didn't get their information, their intel, and that they're going on only what the United States says. And this is the biggest disruptor and lies of the United States. So it sounds like China, huh, William?
Yeah, well, the Philippines took China to court in Geneva, and Geneva said that the 9 or 10 dash line is not law. That's a lie, and Beijing is just choosing not to listen to the World Court. So they are rogue, and if you have rogue nations, right, on the high seas, that means piracy.
Mm-hmm. Now,
and so they can be blockaded now legally.
Mm-hmm. So, I mean, they are building up in my resource over there in Taiwan. He says, some days it's scarier than others. It just depends on how many planes fly. He said, because the boats all around Taiwan It just is weird to see, scary to see. He said, but when they start flying all the planes, that's when everybody kind of waits. And now with Israel, um, and what's going on there, they're even the Taiwan people are even more fearful of our when is our day? When is our day? Um, Now, speaking of Israel, the U.S. Air Force is planning to position aircraft at military base near Athens in connection with American response to events in Israel. Now, the Greek media reported it this week. So not only and they're going to do quite a few aircraft um, with the Greek Air Force. 110 Combat Wing is expected to become a transportation hub for incoming U.S. aircraft. So we now are going to start loading up European bases with our planes for Israel. And see, yeah, that was the first I've heard of this. And
So we have Ellie, we have a number of squadrons of F-16s in Aviano, Italy. And what they're doing is they're moving those guys up to Greece, and then they're bringing others into Aviano.
Mm-hmm.
So the people that are trained in the area for the area are closer to the fight.
Yeah. Um, and then, and speaking of you of not Israel but Ukraine, boy, we're bouncing back and forth. Um, they are going to start Ukrainian pilots training with the F-16s in Arizona. So they're bringing Ukrainians here to Arizona to train them on the F-16 uh, fighter planes. I thought they were going to go over there, but lo and behold.
Well, most of our F-16 training happens at Davis Monthan. They're just out of Phoenix, and I forget the name of that other town. And the boneyard's down there in Tucson, so they probably brought up some of our old F-16s for them to fly, because that's the type of F-16 that Denmark and Holland are going to transfer, right? And so it makes more sense to train them there and not risk the loss of the airplanes that have
Over
already
there.
been slated to go to Ukraine.
Yeah.
Because pilots break airplanes. They do it a lot.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Um, so the thing is I how long does it take to be a pilot though? You know, I thought many years, many years. I mean, we watched Top Gun and those type of movies, and it seemed like you got to train for many years. If it takes a year or so, what good is it to help Ukraine in this war? Now, I heard a week ago Zelensky was looking at a ceasefire. Now he's up for it because we're giving him more aid. So now he's on fire again, saying, "Oh, let's go, let's go." If we weren't to give him any money, I think there would be a ceasefire.
So yeah, that's what we were talking about the other day. Is Zelensky wants a ceasefire every time he thinks he's losing, and it's almost lost. But the second that that's not the case, possibly then he's back to being the warmonger.
Yeah.
That's always remember that's a civil war right there on the Russian border and the Ukrainian border. And when you're engaged in a civil war, you will fight to the last drop of blood, unless you can't fight anymore, right? And as long as you provide them with weapons, they will They will fill body bags.
Yeah. And maybe, there at the very beginning of the war, when we started sending all the tanks and everything we started sending over there, and just anybody was picking them up, that Zelensky should have stopped that because he would have had more military equipment than if he just left it up to whoever to take charge and pick up the weapons. They had regular trucks just showing up saying, yeah, load them up, load them up. Um, and he should have been a little bit more um, organized. That's how you could
So,
see that we have organized military, and so does like um, the British and others. But when you get these smaller countries, they're not real organized, and you'll lose military equipment with a third world nation jumping in saying, "Hey, yeah, let's load up the back of the truck." So
they never had no organization before, and the likelihood of being able to stand up an organization like that, especially when you're under duress, is infinitesimally small. And so they just swear some agents, right? Go get the stuff.
yeah, and anybody will
It's
line
as good
up. I mean,
as
heck, who wouldn't want one of them big old guns that shoot missiles? You know, who would?
it is what it is.
I know. Me, I want a bigger gun, but I don't think I can get the one I want. So, and Mary Jo came in, and so did Linda, and hello to them. Uh,
So
Boy,
during a conflict, you can never get a big enough gun. It's like for a drag racer, right? There's three things you can never get enough of. You can never get enough fuel, enough push rod, and you can never get enough spark. So when you're in a war zone, you can never get a big enough gun.
and with when we look at Israel, one of the last things, Israel's got Hezbollah firing upon them. They all now. What I'm hearing is also maybe some rogue ISIS or ISIL or ISIS K or whatever it is. They're firing, and then they got them coming from going after our troops in Iraq. Then we got the Hamas, and now we got even Yemen has joined in the fight. And the thing is, folks, is it wouldn't be that hard for Iran to load all of these guys up with anything. They move them through very swiftly, very quickly, and they've got tunnels everywhere over there in the Middle East. They've been building tunnels for what 1,000 years, William, or more.
Oh yeah, since the Romans, before the Romans, when Persia showed up, and everybody else showed up. Uh, Before the Persians showed up, I think it was the Babylonians. Then afterwards, you had the Ottoman Turks. So yeah, it's been used forever, and they're pretty effective.
Mm-hmm.
And you can use them as bomb shelters if you like. Chances are, when you bomb just a ground burst, that you're not going to collapse the tunnels, but it doesn't mean you won't kill people in the tunnels without collapsing it.
Yeah. Well, see, that was the
So
that
that's
was
a
the big
weakness.
thing that I was hearing was there may have been some casualties for civilians, not necessarily hostages, but some of the civilians that knew where these
Bosses
tunnels
saying
were,
that
they were
50
running into
hostages
them.
were killed in the tunnels.
Yeah. So, but what I'm saying, William, is what I was hearing was some of the people, the civilians, the Palestinians that aren't part of them, knew where these tunnels were and were lifting manhole covers and jumping in because they knew there were tunnels down there, in their neighborhoods.
Yeah.
Almost like you said earlier, everybody's got like an FBI in their neighborhood almost. Uh, and see, that's what they were doing. They knew these tunnels. So they had civilians that were running for the tunnels. So they wouldn't, their neighborhoods wouldn't be blown up or they weren't taken hostage. And I think some of that was a bad idea because Israel, I watched one morning when they said, I seen a big explosion, and one of the guys on Fox that was over there, he said, "Oh, they're blowing up the tunnels, and they must have hit something really big." And because they do
So,
keep their ammunition, their missiles, down in these tunnels. So,
so the civilian press, Main Street press, is using this as if it was a terrorist incident that we've had in the past. Okay, that's not the case. First of all, Israel was attacked by an army. They used air, land, and sea. They used combined arms. They did terror while they were there, but they attacked air, land, and sea. So they are an army, and Israel was invaded. So Israel now has a right to fight until they will fight no more.
mm-hmm.
All right. And so the Palestinians could actually lose all of Gaza because once Israel has taken all the north, right, they're going to start moving towards the south.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what they're doing right now is they've moved most of the population to the south. They're going to mop this up here so nobody can come up here. They're going to take and flood all those tunnels with basically explosives. So you're going to see lots of stuff come up out of the ground. And
Yeah.
then they'll push south, and either the people will have to surrender, right, unconditionally surrender, and say we will no longer have our own government. We are going to be governed by Israelis, or they'll have to flee, or they'll become a casualty.
Yeah. Well, we can't, it's kind of like we were talking about the other day that they're not going to be able to let them uh, reform. And see, that's the with these hostage, and they were waiting on the hostage negotiation, and it was going day after day. And I said, you know what? They've done this before. If you give them days, they're just rebuilding up. They're getting more missiles. They're getting more strength, and that's happened for decades. That's a normal Hamas, Hezbollah, and the terrorist trick is, oh yeah, we'll work out negotiations. We'll let one or two go. Well, let's wait a week or two or three, and in the meantime, they're building back up what they've lost, and then they just do the strikes all over again. And it's not like if they did a ceasefire, it's going to work because Hamas and Hezbollah, over the decades, when there's a ceasefire, then a month or two later, then they start all over again. And they're the first ones to strike. And of course, we got Iron Dome, or Israel's got Iron Dome, and they shoot them down, and it starts the same battle. And I think this time it just needs to be ended. We just need to do away with these terrorist groups and get them out of the Palestinian
So if I was
population.
Palestinian right now, I would be getting my passport out. And I would make sure that I had the passport to the place of my destination that I want to go. And they're going to be like probably only three destinations: Jordan, Egypt, and Egypt will probably give them a place out on the Sinai Peninsula, which, there's nothing out there. And then Syria.
Maybe we
That's
could
probably
send maybe we could send some of those Hamas guys over to the re-education camp with Jinping. They could be re-educated. I don't know. He might make them worse.
You can't take religion out of a person.
That's it. And it's funny how Uh, Jinping with the re-education camps is all about not having Muslims live, or re-educate them and not let them be hostile. And then at the same time, they're supporting what they're doing. Makes no sense.
So now keep in mind this army that invaded Israel. If they had won, they would have exterminated all of Israel. They were a genocidal army. They say from the river to the sea. When they're talking about the river, they're talking about the Jordan River that flows south and north,
Mm-hmm.
and so basically from Jordan all the way to the ocean. No more Jewish people, right? So they're genocidal.
Yeah.
And so now that Israel's engaged, if they can't win the battle with Israel over Gaza, they'll just be displaced persons because they'll have to swear an allegiance to the Israeli state, or they'll have to find someplace else.
Okay, William, do you have anything that we missed? I mean, I've done look through all mine. I made sure I got everything I wanted to say out for the news. And doggone it,
Yeah,
news,
be
get on
very,
with the
very
news.
wary right now of the central banks. Um, there's been reports of overnight those ATM machines, so you can get cash out, disappearing.
Mm-hmm.
So they're starting to make movements. So yeah, keep an eyeball on that and keep pressure on Congress, because Congress will let it happen, right? Unless the people don't force them to maintain their focus. They just need plausible deniability to vote with this central bank deal.
Yeah.
All right. So you have to keep pressure on them. Don't give your politicians plausible deniability, or they will vote against you.
Mm-hmm. They'll do their own agenda, and that's what I found out calling a lot of them. Um, Now, tomorrow will be news and trivia, and we'll start new, fresh on Monday. Right now, I'm trying to go light on my shows. Um, just this week, though. So tomorrow, we're definitely going to have trivia, and we'll have news. And so, William, great show. And like I said, I had some medical issues this week, so um, might have to take it back to the beginning and listen to what I had to say. And I want to thank y'all for watching. And we had a new opening tonight. William's got new music and a lot of new changes I've made over this last week. So we do thank you all, and subscribe and hit that like button, hit the thumbs up, and come on back and watch us tomorrow. So, all right, William, I thank you. You're a great co-host, or ho-host. Ho-host makes you sound like a ho-ho, though.
I'm a co-hostess with the mostest.
Okay. All right. So with that, everybody, we will see you tomorrow. And I thank you all for watching, and um, subscribe, and we'll see you tomorrow. And enjoy the new ending.